Danny's Van episode 22, I aim to offer some reassurance from one musician to another. Very lately in the press and on telly, we've seen lots of live venues shutting. Pubs have had to shut at 10 o'clock. They can only host a third of the number of people that would usually go into the pub. So bands are, they just can't afford to put them on. Now, we've had people, notably MPs, who are calling musicians and other trades that are suffering during this pandemic, they've called them unviable. It's just real naive, idiotic comments. And in fact, really, as an MP, you are meant to represent the views of your constituents rather than yourself. So perhaps this particular MP has made himself unviable by making those comments. Now, being a musician during this pandemic, lots has changed. Masses has changed. I've been busking more times in the last 6 months than I have my entire nearly quarter of a century as a professional musician. And actually, it's really nice. It's been a really nice summer, this 2020. And I've earned some money at the same time as being able to practice. I've done loads of practice. I'm a better musician now than I was 6 months ago. Well, I hope so. I'd hope that every musician actually improves, but sometimes you can go through the motions and just fill the diary up with gigs and playing the same tunes all the time that you actually lose sight of what it is to be a musician. Now, of course, could be a naive view. Really, we've got to earn money. We've got to pay, I've got to pay my mortgage and run my van and put food on the table. But there are lots and lots of other things that being a musician can actually do for you. I've had quite a few online sessions. I've done lots of teaching online. You set up Zoom, and actually the one place that I teach, I just teach 1 day a week. The one place that I teach, I got more out of the pupils there online because they were at home. The parents are watching over them. So actually they made better progress online than they did actually at the school. Bizarre. But, it's positive. All the parents keep paying the fees, and so that's fine. I've fallen into a role as a video editor. People have given me videos to cut or little bits and pieces to do in addition to sound engineering, and it's been fantastic. It's been really nice. As I said, when one door closes, very often 2 or 3 open, and we should always maintain that view that it always happens. Regardless of the adversity, regardless of the situation we find ourselves in, there's always going to be something to do. Now, as a musician, you can really, if you are a specialist in something, say you're, a guitarist who plays rock music in the style of Richie Sambora, and that's your trademark, fine. But you should be engaging in other things. It doesn't mean you're any less of a musician, and it doesn't mean that you are selling yourself. You're selling out. In fact, that you're not. You're doing the exact opposite. Because then people go, get that guy over there, because he can play anything. And there are a couple of guitarist mates of mine who are in that very mould. They can play lots of things, but choose not to. And I think that's a shame, because especially during this pandemic, you need to pay the bills. So it's a win-win. You go out and do these different things. Not only do you get your money, but you also become a better musician as a result. So there is simply no downside. I do hospital gigs. I play for a charity. it's paid, but I play outside hospital wards. And most of the windows open, a couple shut if there's a patient who's not very well at all and doesn't want to hear it. But it's a really nice job. It's a really nice thing to do, and it has spun off more things. I've got a couple more hospital gigs, and these are all local ones. I play a few garden parties. People just have a solo musician, and they've got their their group. And of course, they've got to be able to afford a musician, but there's never going to be a shortage of people who can afford to pay a musician, and no shortage of people who appreciate live music. Now, this could be a new beginning, because the amount of live music has simply vanished overnight. It could serve as a reset button. It could be that only the best musicians get to play live venues again. which is great because it raises all of our game, and it means that those of us who are trying to make a living out of it will invariably be asked to play in the future. Recording work, you can do some recording at home, you can make some library music. I write library music, so you just compose a piece of an album of stuff and send it off to somebody, and then it'll get used on the TV or the radio or films or whatever. Perhaps not the most sort of lucrative thing to throw yourself into at this moment, because it does take 12 to 18 months at least for any money to come in. But my uncle did lots of library music. I got my inspiration from him, and he actually made a lot of money off just one particular tune. And, he paid for an extension on his house with it. That gives you an idea how lucrative it can be. YouTube, you're watching this at the moment on YouTube. Every time you click on it and see an advert, I see 0.083 pence or whatever it is. But the more videos you make, the more content you put up, the more money you earn. So it's about income streams, being a musician. If you just do gigs, or you just do teaching, or you just do something, it means that if you lose that, you're in trouble. Or if the school shuts, or there's no lessons or whatever, then you're in a bit of trouble. And actually, you need to be recession proof. You need to be in that situation, whereas if you lose, I do 10 or 12 different things. If I lost 2 of them, it doesn't really matter, because you just concentrate on the others, and lo and behold, something else will come. So musicians, don't lose heart. Don't lose faith in what you do. You are extremely viable. We are viable as a profession. People need music. We are in that situation where people don't realise how much they need the arts until they're gone. And then it's going to be a bit tricky to get them back. So keep plugging away and you'll make it fine.